I suppose we were all talking about it in Gareth Spaniel. The very second the whistle was blown in that match, Munster were out the hurley, you were so around, you were thinking you were this player and that player, and it's just unbelievable. And even, I suppose they're the first memories, and we've often talked to a couple of lads inside now, the first memories we have of going out playing a Munster Championship game is thinking back, wanting to be or aspiring to be the players that were playing back then. Your Kieran's or Mark Foley's or Tim Smith, all them players, Barry Foley's, Keys, go on. And I just remember that's my first thought of Munster Championship hurling when you asked me the question. But I suppose from a playing point of view, I only played in two of them in 2013 and 14. Obviously my best memory is the one we won. It's got a lot of similarities actually to tomorrow's game. The weather was good. I suppose we hadn't won anything in a while really, whereas tomorrow's team, there's a lot of expectation they would start one while. But even though we beat Tip in 2013, Kinnaird beat them in 2012, we still went in as underdogs. So all the pressure was on Cork, totally. We just had to go out and play our own game. And I'll never forget, it was Thursday night before the Munster final, and John Allen, with a very soothing kind of way of managing, he just brought us up into the open stand and he said, lads, what way do you want to play the weekend? And I remember thinking at the time, is this just crazy, or is this the best piece of sports psychology you'll ever see in your life? So the players kind of said, look, with the half forward line, we're going to work back a bit like they want to do tomorrow, we're going to work back hard, midfielders, and without knowing it, he was just making sure that everyone knew their job and what we were going to do. We went through it once or twice, and it was warm that Thursday, went away from the open stand, and obviously Pat Horgan getting sent off, but that day, just everything seemed to go right for us, and you kind of needed the Munster final. The following year, a couple of things went wrong, but that's my earliest memory. Of course, as a player that was playing that day, we'd like to think that there was the kickstart for Limerick going all the way, even though we didn't win a match 3 years after. But that was the start. That was the start of the Limerick hype coming back again. Look, I think it did bring an awful lot of pride and passion back to Limerick hurling. A lot of people still say, like 2013, which was a great day, and it was probably a day that we can remember for a long period. We went through kind of a barren patch, so that was just a good memory I always had.
Second season retired now, how are you finding it? First season was a tough
I was always better to talk in the hurling, like, so I'm kind of finding my place. And look, last year was obviously tough. I think apart from the obvious Limerick when the All-Ireland are not part of it, the way the hurling championship was, the new format, I'd say the lads here, everyone wanted to be part of the hurling last year. Now it hasn't kicked off maybe as statically in euphoric scores going everywhere, and everyone talking about the matches as it did last year, not the Munster Championship anyway, but it's still very interesting and all the permutations and everything, even in Leinster and the whole lot. So I think a new championship brings a new bit of life and a new bit of pride into the whole thing. Look, Limerick were on a massive run last year. From the very minute the ball was thrown in first round of the league, they just kept getting better and better and better. It was a joy to watch from a Limerick point of view. So second year on, just enjoying it. It's great to see. Like again, I know, like we used to always say this thing when we were inside the panel about, I suppose it comes from the All Blacks, about leaving the jersey in a better place and all this kind of stuff. And look, I wouldn't say that we left the jersey in a better place, because people have a short memory. We didn't win a championship game for 3 years up to last year. So like, if somebody could have told me to start the last year they were going to win the All-Ireland, like, you would have taken their tenner and given them 20 to 1, because they came out. But like, you'd like to think that any player that played for Limerick, it was your aim to leave the jersey in a better place. And look, the work that the underage academy and all that has done for these young lads, they have been trained to the limit, strength and condition, everything, and they're in a good place right now, and we're very happy with the way Limerick hurling is going.
Brilliant, thank you. Conor, I think 5 Munster titles to your name, would that be correct?
Yeah.
Would one of them be your standout memory, or would it be something else?
I suppose my first year was 2008. We came in here into the Gaelic grounds, played Clare, and I suppose that was Liam Sheedy's first year with that team, and you know, we built up an awful lot of momentum. We managed to win the league, league title. We went all the way inside the Gaelic grounds and had a big win against Cork, blowing Harty Cleave. I think we had been better than, what was it, 81 years or something like that, blowing Harty Cleave. So that obviously gave the group massive confidence. And we came in then and we played Clare. Clare were after beating Limerick in the semi-final in Thurles, I remember, and Clare played really well the same day. So, you know, look, there's obviously a massive rivalry between Tip and Clare, so we would probably renew that rivalry that had been there in the late 90s and the early 2000s and 2008. And it was just a fantastic day to go out and win a Munster title with Tipperary. And just there was a massive crowd there the same day. I think it was, what's the say the game was 44,000, yeah. 44, so it was a huge crowd there to say Mary Mahoney counted them all there. Coming in past her. But you know, it's just fantastic. I think Munster final day is really, really special. It's absolutely, you know, I'd say we're just talking about the game there tomorrow. We just can't wait for tomorrow. You know, it's going to be, you know, there's all the ingredients to be an epic, and you know, it's building up nicely. With the ham sandwich, with the ham bought, with
Limerick ham.
Yeah, the Brennan's bread is there, and the tin foil is. The mother was ironing it there just before I left, so we're ready to rock. I have the milk in the car and all for the day, so we're
beautiful and fresh by tomorrow, Connor.
We're ready. It'll be fly. If there's a wind there tomorrow, all you see is tin foil going down Dennis Road.
Now, I met Kieran during the week at another event, and I brought up his championship debut was 1989, and I nearly got killed for doing so.
I didn't really, but my early memories of watching Munster finals, I suppose, would have been the mid-80s and up until I took part myself. And I suppose during that period, Cork and Tipperary would have dominated a lot of them. Limerick might have sprinkled in every third or fourth year. And I suppose even at that stage I was acutely aware, if you look at the GA calendar year, their number one game at the end of the year is the All-Ireland final. And I'll be bold enough to say possibly second would be Munster final. So I had a fair old grasp of what it meant and what it feel like once you got there. And I suppose my own memory was in '92, my first Munster final, and actually Cork beat us same year, but obviously I went on to win a Munster championship. But yeah, I was acutely aware of the importance of a Munster final, and I suppose back then it was slightly different because you had to win every game to contest the Munster final. And I suppose the new system then after that came the two teams contesting the provincial final qualified, and now you have a new system now. So the Munster final probably was that more important back then because you had to win every game to get to it, if you know what I mean. You can win, you can lose one, you can lose two, and still get in there now and still be Munster champions. And in fairness, look at Tipperary, they've every game won and tomorrow, so if they cross the line tomorrow, it would be proper Munster champions. And if Limerick cross the line, they're also Munster championship, but there's something nice and sweet about winning a Munster championship title undefeated.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at tomorrow's game now. We're just going to start with Limerick. First thing I want to say to Conor is, Conor, you might be used to John Kiely's style of managerial roles because you won an All-Ireland medal under him in the Abbey.
That's right, yeah. 2002, we won the colleges All-Ireland. We played Castlecomer from Kilkenny in the final. I remember inside in Semple Stadium, Ella Noonan there from Gary Spillane there was hurling from Galway their side there, and a couple of more Limerick lads in the panel. So yeah, John was over us with Paddy O'Kelly from Kilmallock. So there was a fierce Limerick influence, and but we still managed to win. You know, but no, look at John is a real solid guy. Do you know what I mean? Great man, massive passion for the game. Like I suppose that was my one abiding memory of John, was a fantastic motivator, and you know what I mean, and a very good hurling coach as well. Very good hurling coach, and you know, I said a real nice fella, someone I would have massive respect for. You know, and look, he's gone on to bigger and better things. He's the principal now inside in the Abbey, and driving it on there again, like, you know what I mean, and obviously doing very well with Limerick as well. What
was he like as a manager? Was he kind of strict in what he would tell you, or how would he have had training sessions with you? Could you have seen something like this in him?
Yeah, well, sure. I suppose, like, you at the time, you'd never be thinking, "Jeez, what could this man go on to?" You'd just be listening to him and taking it all in. But like, I suppose he kind of would have been giant manager himself and Paddy O'Kelly. But like, the one thing that I always got from John, I said, just a massive passion for the game, fantastic motivator, and you know, really organised with the small little things that he do to get you right for the big day. You know, and. You know, I said already, just solid out, like, you know. But he would demand a very high standard. And if you weren't doing it, he wouldn't be shy in telling you. You know, and that's what you have to be as a manager, like, you know. That's what you have to do. You have to be able to tell lads straight, and if you tell lads straight, you'll get the respect, like, you know. So, and you can see that he is that, like, you know.
Great. James, you've been to all the Limerick games this year, having won 2 and lost 2. They've kind of had a rocky start to this championship, and to be ending up where they are they lucky?
I suppose you're definitely lucky when you lose 2 matches and still be in it, because Clare lost 2 and they're out. Look, I suppose the one thing I see about the new format this year in Munster is that there were certain years there when you know the team is going well, and usually ball is thrown in the first round championship. You know whether you're going well or not. Next thing you lose the game, and you know whether you were in the game. So like 2012 was very hard for us. We lost to Tipperary. We felt we were in the game. 10 minutes to go. They just pulled away, maybe a mistake or two. We could build on that. But there are certain defeats where you're going, you don't think it's coming. When the game is over, you kind of, I don't know, is it negativity or players that you could see it coming, training wasn't going well, and the whole. And sometimes now might be only making excuses, but other times it could be evident that things weren't going well. And I think the new current championship, like we'll say we lost to Tipperary there that year, and maybe we went down and played Westmeath, Hughes Park, you can build a bit of confidence again and go in back through the back door. But now when you lose a first round of championship against maybe Cork, the following week you're going to play a Tip, and the following week you're going to play Clare. So there was years there where we were quite happy to go out in a qualifier game because we were going poor, rather than getting things going bad, morale poor in the camp. We've all been there, things not going well, and next team to play every team in Munster. So I think it's very hard now for Munster managers to make sure the camp is right, because every game is a tough game. And this year, look, obviously things, whatever it may be in Waterford and Clare, things just didn't seem to click right. Whereas with Limerick, they obviously had 2 great wins in them 2 games. And the Cork game, I think maybe we were kind of set up, fixtures-wise we were kind of set up, because we were after winning the league, everything was going great. There was a massive gap to try and prepare for championship there. And I don't care what you say, they won the league so easy. From a player's point of view, if I could have put myself in there, you're kind of chest out, we are flying it. And it's very hard to come down off that mindset. And Clare are kind of going, here, we have to lose to Tipperary now, and ye beat us, came late in All-Ireland semi-final last year. From a player's point of view, psychologically, it was so easy to get up for that game. So I think Cork just kind of caught us on the hop, because we were, maybe the mindset mightn't have been there. And obviously then the Tip game, we rested a few and we were through anyway, and things like that. So yeah, we've had 50% win rate, but I suppose when you look back at the 2 games, if we put it that we were kind of set up a small bit fixtures wise, and also the talk the whole time was that we had to play all the games straight. You know, with the week gap, but we had to play the matches, and we probably got the hardest draw, the fixtures and things like that. But the one thing I would say about the 2 games that we lost, and the one thing you have to admire this Limerick team with, is resolve. Like, you think of any team you're playing with, and when you are playing poor and when you're not getting as much primary possession and winning as much breaking ball and puck-outs, usually you lose the game by 10, 12 points. When Limerick lose, they lost the other day, and people are saying Tip should have beat them 30 points. They only lost by 4 for a finish. They're resolve, and they're bringing that from last year. Like, if we reflect back to Thurles last year against Kilkenny, 68 minutes gone, I think roughly, Richie Hogan put the ball in the back net, we were a point down. And their body language, straight away, everybody went back into their position, and it was just next score. So the one thing they are bringing this year is a bit like, I call it Kilkenny, like, that you could be the saying that you could be 10 points better than Kilkenny and they could still draw with you. Limerick are starting to get that kind of mentality. Even though they're losing games, they're losing by small margins. And then the 2 games that they were on their game, they won it by big margins. So it's hard to know where Limerick are at in that sense.
John, James mentioned the new format structure. Limerick could be the team that lose 3 championship matches but still end up in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, that seems to be, for me, Valerie, it's the reason why I think Limerick will win tomorrow, because the fear of losing. You know, I think it's knockout for Limerick tomorrow, as much as, you know, they will be in a quarter-final in 2 weeks' time. I think there's more for Tipperary to win, but there's more for Limerick to lose, and for that reason I think that bit of desperation will get Limerick over the line. But yeah, absolutely, it's just a quirk of the system, the fact that, you know, at the start of the year, I think all of us up on the stage here, if we were asked number 1 who would finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we would have all struggled. Number 1, number 2, we would have said that nobody would have gone through the stages 100%. Like what Tipperary have done is quite remarkable. And you know, there's a bit of crack in Tipperary. I was trying to get a couple of lads during the week. You know, it was all too nice during the week. There was a bit too much respect being shown between the 2 groups, and I made a couple of calls to a couple of people, and it didn't work out. about Tipperary, you know, someone to give out that Tipperary should have got home advantage for this, considering they finished top of the group, the unbeaten. Obviously, Limerick and Tipperary have a long standing home away agreement, so there wasn't any quibbles about that. But for Tipperary, I think the place to exercise their ghosts, like it was in the Gaelic Crowns last year, that the whole season spiralled. It really went into, you know, Michael Ryan not coming out to speak to us in the media afterwards. You know, you knew that it just didn't send out the right signals, and it all went downhill for them from there. So this is about exercising ghosts for Tipperary. But coming back to the Limerick losing 2 games, it is, you know, as James 100% right. I think Limerick were caught cold in round 2. I think the way the format this year didn't suit them. It didn't suit Tipperary last year, mind. They had to play 4 weeks in a row. Obviously, the Munster Council have put in that little gap now, which is a great break for teams. But the one concern that John Kiely was saying, that, you know, we had to play 3 games in 3 games in 14 days. They weren't going to be full pelt all the time, you know. And even you know, that Tipperary game, I don't think Limerick went out to lose that game, but at the same time, there was a bit of a safety net, in the sense that it would have taken something quite remarkable for Limerick not to finish in the top 3. And you know, I think Limerick, as much as they have, you know, there's history on the line for them tomorrow, they could have a lot of a league title, an All-Ireland title, a Munster title, all in their possession by 4 o'clock or 3:30 tomorrow. If you were to give John Kiely finishing 3rd again this season, I don't think he would have said no.
Okay, Ciarán, I met you the last day and we were chatting about the last day out against Tipperary, and that John Kiely may have either dropped or rested players. And he's shown maybe in the team that came out last night that they were just rested.
Yeah, rested, yeah. You know, at the start of the year, you know, anyone who follows the game of hurling sees Liam Sheedy introduced into the county scene. You know, you're going to stand up, you're going to take notice. So it was obvious Tipperary were going to be in the top 1 or 2, 3. Limerick were also going to be up there, and Cork, I fancied Cork. And you're looking at Limerick's performance thus far compared to last year. And like, they are All-Ireland champions, and I would presume any managerial team or coach and structure involved with an inter-county team would have Limerick fine-combed from last year. And I believe that's a huge part to play in it. I watched Tipperary and Limerick in the league in the Gaelic rounds, and Limerick gave Tipperary a toasting, and all merciful hiding the same night. And in fairness to Liam Sheedy and Tommy Dunn, the two of them were standing, hands on their elbows and just staring in. They were just a bit lost. Now, Liam Sheedy's away from the game for about 7 or 8 years. 3 days later, he pulled Eamon O'Shea in. And on top of that, he also pulled Owen Kiely in as a coach. So thereafter steadying the ship tactically. And I believe Tipperary got the better of Limerick the last day tactically. And I think who wins the tactical battle tomorrow will win the game. And, you know, Limerick, I don't know, I have 1 or 2 concerns in around making the decision on a Tuesday night. James Ryan, okay, James has good 50 minutes in James. So we'll throw Johnny in. Now, James could have about 5 points over the bar like at this stage, and they could still do that. That's my only concern. And the reason I say that, Graham Mulcahy got 1-3 against Cork, and I felt William O'Donoghue was possibly one of our best players against Tip the last time. So, you know, and there is times, like when you put your head in the chopping block as a manager, you need to have the ability to think on your feet also in the heat of battle, emotionally. And, you know, even the last day, if you look at it, it was tailor-made for Dowling to win full forward and go direct route and add 1 or 2 balls, because it wasn't working, the sharp passes, it wasn't silky, it wasn't crispy, because it was raining, the ball was going after hurling, and it didn't work. And the other side, Tipperary had a lovely balance. They went short and they went long. And as I said, you know, definitely they're a team that has turned themselves inside out for the better tactically. And, you know, that is the battle that I'll be looking at tomorrow. And the way the game has gone, like, you know, watching the game at hurling 10 years ago, it's totally different to where you're watching it now. And, you know, I still believe that Limerick's bench is far superior than Tipperary. I think we can get a lot of joy after defenders if we run at them. and definitely the 4 boys coming back into the fray. They were on a break. We were talking about it earlier on. I said to James straight up, I think it was a bit naive to bring Nick Keane and Graham on. Like, if they left them off, leave them off. Let them watch the game. And if they lose by 3 or 4 points, what about it? If it was 6 or 7, what about it? You know, you 4 massive guns coming in tomorrow. Massive guns. And there are 4 guys like that are going to, like they've done it last year, they've done it this year. You know, they take ownership. Hegarty wing forward, takes authority. He is the boss when he gets the ball, and there's something at the end of it. Keane Lynch did the exact same. So, headaches for Tipperary tomorrow, I'm afraid.
Conor, what do you think of that? Would you agree with Kieran that Limerick have that stronger bench? I think there's 11 of the minors from 2013 that are in the Limerick senior panel tomorrow.
Yeah, Limerick have a strong bench, there's no doubt about it, and probably a more settled panel than what we have, with a lot more experience maybe from last year. But the other side of that is, I think, while Limerick, like, they brought in 4 lads the last day, okay, they left off 4 big guns, as Kieran said. Them 4 lads didn't exactly produce it now. Do you know what I mean? Like, say you have 2 from last year, Flanagan, Darragh Dunham probably struggling for a bit of form. Casey didn't probably play as well. Dowling, you know what I mean? So they didn't have the impact from starting. Now, we've seen them coming in, and they have had big impacts on a game. So, do you know what I mean? I think Limerick have a stronger bench. Fair enough. I would agree with that. But you know, like, we lost 2 big players the last day in Barrett and Bonner Mayer. You know what I mean? And 2 lads came in, Alan Flynn and Dan McCormick, and done really, really well. Flynn shaky, but had a good second half. I think we're going to see Niall O'Meara tomorrow. You know, he came off after 55 minutes against Cork in the first championship game, and he was without doubt our best player that day. For them first 55 minutes, he brought a massive energy. You know what I mean? Very Bonner-like in the way he goes about his work. Probably not able to maybe get it to ground as effective as Bonner would be able to. You know, but you know, look at. I think there's a few variables tomorrow when you look at it. Like, say, you could say Limerick are up 4, Tip are down 2. But I think Tip have been more consistent throughout the championship, and every day Tip have come to the field. They've brought a massive performance and a massive work ethic, and that has been the constant for Tipperary. And we were just talking there beforehand. That middle 8 there tomorrow, right? The half back lines, the midfield, and the half forward line. That is going to be absolutely the physicality that's going to be in there tomorrow. I think is going to be off the charts, because there is massive men on both teams, and in both stature and character and quality. You know, so like, I think whoever's going to win that battle, from a work rate point of view, you know what I mean, is going to shade it. And like, you know, like, you've class acts on both teams. Like, you know, like, you're going to have Keane Lynch and Noel McGrath in the middle of the field. Now, they're not going to go opposite each other. You know, you'd imagine Mikey Breen might come to try and negate Keane Lynch. You'd imagine Will O'Donoghue was going to go on to Noel McGrath. You know what I mean? And whichever, Breen or Donoghue, whichever can do their job better, you know what I mean, that'll have a massive influence on the game. And then, like, you know, I suppose Tip wouldn't have massive pace in the half-back line, I suppose, with the 2 Mahers and, say, the 2 brothers, Padraig and Ronan. And Brendan is in, do you know what I mean, came back from a cruciate ligament injury. He's in, do you know what I mean, he's in the nick of his life. But the structure that Tip have is ensuring that them boys aren't being exposed. In terms of the half-back line coming back, Noel McGrath sitting with Paddy, that's given a chance for Paddy Maher to sit on the D. Now, look at, I can't see Limerick aren't going to leave Paddy Maher on the D tomorrow and hit balls into him. Do you know what I mean? To be like giving spuds to a duck, like, you know. So like to be like, you know, that's what they ate out our side, lads.
Water to a duck.
We ate the ham. So Limerick aren't going to do that tomorrow. And similar enough, we're not going to let Hannon sit. I can't imagine we're going to let Hannon sit on the D either and take ball from Sean Finn and Mikey Casey and set up the attack. So look, it's as I said, it's intriguing really what's going to happen. But it'll be one hell of a battle, and Tip to shade it by 1.
We're getting a prediction already.
It could be up to 5 by the time we finish.
Conor, we mentioned the team selection tomorrow. Cathal Barrett is down to start, whether however fit he might be, but is Tipperary in trouble with the loss of Bonner Maher?
Yeah, sure. Look at he's you know what I mean. He's been probably you could say the fulcrum of the Tip attack since he started in 2009. I think probably his first championship start into the panel in 2009, first championship start in 2010. And I suppose the great thing about Bonner is that he's so different to the other 5 forwards. What he brings in terms of, he's a line breaker. Do you know what I mean? He has speed. So like our other 5 forwards, who are all quality hurlers, can make hay off Bonner. The likes of John McGrath, Shamey. You know what I mean? Like, these boys are cute bubbles. Do you know what I mean? The minute Bonner is getting the ball, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just going to go in an arc around Bonner and just say, hey, give me the ball, I'll take the handy score and put it over the bar. While Bonner could be after picking the ball with 4 lads hanging off him and fucking one here and one there and everywhere, like, you know. But Bonner is a massive loss. A fella is going to have to come in and do the job. He's not going to be there tomorrow, so there's no point in dwelling on it too much. A fella has to come in, be whoever, Dan McCormack, Niall O'Mara, Jake Morris is inside in the corner tomorrow. They're just going to have to go in and do the job. And look at whether Cahill is going to start or not, I don't know. He's down to start. Given that it's not do or die, you know what I mean? If it was do or die tomorrow, you'd say, yeah. If you're 70-30 or 60-40, go in and chance it, and we'll see how you go.
That's the thing about it. It is do or die for Limerick, though. Like the last day, Valerie, if you remember, John Kiely said we weren't going to risk Hegarty off the bench because he was carrying something. But any man who's 70%, 80% for Limerick tomorrow is starting. If there is any concern, they're starting. Whereas, as you're absolutely right, Conor, if there's a doubt about Barrett against Gillane, against Mulcahy, you don't risk it, do you?
Well, sure, like, if you start Cahill tomorrow and then after 10 minutes Hammer is gone, and like say if he has a grade 2, say, pull or a tear, right, that's gone. That means he's gone for 4 weeks, right? You get bet All-Ireland quarter final against Dublin, or say whoever it's going to be, all right, All-Ireland quarter final, you're down your best defender, like, and like at the end of the day, like, you would need him for that game. While we'd love to win tomorrow, you know what I mean, you can't. I think that's on both teams. Like, if you have a fella who's not right, you're going to be found out after trying. Like, if you're trying to follow Gillane out to the first ball, like, you can't afford to run 80% out to the ball with any of these fellas, because they will absolutely skin you alive. So, like, you have to be on the money 100%.
And tomorrow's going to be, like, the weather is good tomorrow, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is. Like, the heat of the crowd as well, you know it as well, lads. The Gaelic grounds has that cauldron effect. The heat is going to be incredible. You want to be taking water on every 10-15 minutes, like, and that's obviously, dehydration, hamstrings, they don't go together well.
Yeah, but definitely with the intensity of the game and where it's gone, I suppose a bit in James' early career and my career, you get a few stitches, you go back on and you get a belt and film, break the finger, hurl away. But it's gone totally different. Like, Cahill Barrett was in the full of his health the last day, and Aaron Gillane gave him a torrid time. And Aaron Gillane will be smiling if he sees him coming tomorrow, because he knows about his hammer also. So I couldn't see Cahill Barrett starting tomorrow. I couldn't see Liam Sheedy taking that chance. Unless you're 110% fit going out in the Munster final, you're wasting your time. Genuinely, and that's the way it's gone. You can't take a chance.
It's great to see Limerick people guessing, though, isn't it?
I hope you, Slan.
Gillane will have a field day if he is.
Yeah, I suppose just on Kieran and Conor's point there, like, everybody's saying that 2 weeks ago was a nothing game or whatever, but like, all the video analysis and stats teams and all that will be looking at 2 weeks ago now, like, and you're saying about not leaving Declan Hannon free in the D, right? And obviously Dan Morrissey gone in centre back the last day, and Tipperary obviously played with a sweeper. So what Tipperary done, we'll say Paddy O'Loughlin was on a man at one stage, and Tipperary rotated the forwards. So they only had 5 forwards and 6 backs. So when the ball is coming in, or from a puck out or whatever, just say it's Declan Hannon tomorrow, he thinks he's the sweeper. Next thing, he's Shamey Callan alongside him and the whole lot. So 2 weeks ago, the ball was pucked out and all the tip forwards rotated. It was obviously a tactic they had. So next thing, Paddy O'Loughlin was there looking around going, where's my man gone? He was the spare man. So it took him 2 or 3 minutes to know he was the spare man. And by the time he knew it, there was a tip forward back on him, and Richie English was the spare man. And it was just, I remember David Fitz doing in a challenge game with Wexford against us a couple of years ago, and we came in at half time and it caused consternation. We were all fighting with each other. Are you the spare man? No, he's the spare man. And it was just a great little tactic. And if they do that tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see will Limerick have a system for that play. Now, as I said, Declan Hannon is always our spare man. If Limerick play a sweeper, Declan Hannon is our sweeper. Obviously, Dan was centre back the last day, he was out of position, he's back wing. So I'm sure they've come across this before, and Declan might be able to sit and player coming up and they're touch tight. And another thing that Tipperary do, as you were saying about Eamon O'Shea and Liam Sheedy, have become very tactical aware of the situations, the way hurling is gone. Shane Callanan played about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of both halves inside full forward the last day. So it's very hard for a team to set up to know where Shane Callanan is going to play. The last day was very strange. He kind of played as a fourth half forward. It was weird. He was kind of half forward, kind of semi-midfield. So look, maybe they're just going to have to go man for man and keep Declan free, which is probably the tactic for that. The other thing that Tipperary done, which is very interesting, was the Noel McGrath, who I don't think, no, I wasn't at all the games. I don't be watching Tipperary or you watch him on telly, but he played exceptionally defensive. Like, he was literally like a second sweeper as such. And we say, remember Conor Boylan was just about to take the shot. That was Noel McGrath that got the hook back, and that was inside the D. So that's how deep he was playing. And he's still got the threat. If he comes up a bit, he can shoot from 89 yards. So he's still a shooting option. And the other thing that I thought was very, very interesting from a tactical point of view, we're on about Tipperary's half-back line. We were kind of talking about it later. Are they suspect on the turn? Can they be caught in the air, the whole lot? I've no doubt about it. In the second, at half-time, Liam Sheedy or whoever their statsman was told the half-back line. And I know it's a very under maybe 13, 14 thing to say to players, but he just told the half-back line, bat the ball. So every single ball, it's like, don't let the ball break through the half-back line. So every time the three boys were just batting the ball. And like, if Kyle Hayes or Tom Morrissey were good ball winners, are going up for that ball the whole time, and it's just been battered. It's very hard to catch a ball if the other fella's intention is to bat it. And Bubbles O'Dwyer and Michael Breen got on the world of breaking ball. And Bubbles wasn't exactly floating around. The ball was just breaking to the half forward and going through midfield. He was picking up the world of ball there. So it's going to be very interesting tomorrow what way teams are going to set up, what matchups are going to be there. Will Noel McGrath play as defensively? Because the other thing that Liam Sheedy done, I don't know, was it back in 2012 or 13? I remember this because I was out half hour in midfield there. He done it again in the league. Or was it the Waterford Chris? I can't remember which Limerick tip match it was. He often plays with three midfielders. So he might play like three in the full back, three in the half back, three midfielders. And it's very hard for the two midfielders, we say, Keane and William O'Donoghue, to know for puck-outs and all that unless a man comes out. So they have a couple of tricks up their sleeve for certain things to upset other teams, which will be interesting tomorrow from a tactical point of view.
Sorry, just to come in on the sweeper, but sure, if you are going to get shy, that's the only way you're going to get it. Like, you have to cut out the sweeper. If you allow the sweeper, you're going to get punished, you're going to get hurt. And I'll just give you a little example of that. We played an old Camogie match this evening. We were playing Wexford, and Wexford 6 was free. So I, the corner forward, told, if 6 is free, she's yours. So straight away that freed up the cornerback to be sweeper, who was back there, and I said, I don't mind that, just make sure 6 isn't free. And that's not that complicated. And I was smiling there to myself when you were saying 5, 6 and 7 going up and bat the ball. Sure, we're told that at under 10s. Stop the ball, make sure it doesn't go in. But that's what I said a while ago. I believe the tactical battle tomorrow will be huge, and I don't think Tipperary are that naive that they're going to allow Declan Hannon get beautiful Michael Flatley sexy balls from Nicky from Nicky, and he's going to have time. Now, in fairness, Dermot Burns might get a few of them, but his delivery is outstanding. So our delivery, to be fair, has to be on the meat. When our machine is moving, it's usually from delivery to half backline to midfield. And like Aaron Gallan, I don't think there's a player in the country that can find the grass as well as him. So all joking aside, whether it's Cathal Barrett, I don't really mind who it is, they're going to have their hands full either way, because he knows every blaze of grass the Gaelic rounds, and as I said, he's exceptional at finding space.
Who does he play for again? What's his club again, Ciara?
Listen, I'll be honest, Joe, I let his record speak for itself last year. I don't even think I need to reply to that.
But the big thing for, and you're 100%, but the big thing for Tip is supply. Do you know what I mean? You have to cut off the supply to Gillane, and he'll play inside in the square, and if Cathal Barrett doesn't play, who's going to go on him? Because the big thing about Gillane is he's a devil from you know what I mean. He'll play on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Play your hurley in the air, snap it behind you, and that's where he'll get his goal opportunities. And another intriguing part of tomorrow is Nicky Quaid's puck outs, where if you watch the Tip half back line the last day, and Limerick, you know what I mean, they had a massive retention rate last year on their puck outs. It was probably the key to a lot of their success. and their movement between Hegarty, Kyle Hayes and Tom Morrissey. But the last day, the actual 3 Tip half-backs just stayed in their positions.
Which was 110% right.
Yeah.
Most of the other teams, actually, as naive as they are, when they see Tom Morrissey, Gerard Hegarty and Kyle Hayes the puck out, running back, up to now, 5, 6, 7 are always finding them. So Tip holding their shape means their structure
and
right.
It's going to be interesting to see,
and
and look at the statsmen for Limerick will have looked at that. So, like, what different is going to come down the tracks tomorrow, like, you know, so it's that structure that is helping Tip an awful lot at the moment. But in fairness, Limerick do that as well, like, you know what I mean, with their midfielders sit back as well. Actually, the two teams are playing very, I think Tip have kind of, you know what I mean, have looked at Limerick and are probably trying to work it very, very similar to what Limerick work it in terms of, you know what I mean, the way they pack that middle and try 2 lads on the edge of the square who are trying to go and ping ball into, like, you know, so whoever's going to be better at it tomorrow will probably will win it.
There are a lot of things that are different from this time last year for Tipperary. Go on, Kieran.
Did you hear the way he said whoever's going to be better at it tomorrow will win it? So he's gone from his point win. Come here, didn't go up at all, just coming down. The longer we stay here.
I didn't want to say it again, that was going to be us, Kieran.
There's plenty of things that have changed from this time last year, John. They were gone the 9th of June last year. This year, is it Liam Sheedy that's brought something back new and different into the panel?
I think it is. I think it is in many ways, Valerie, because he, very much like John Kiely, he's a great man manager, very good for one-on-ones, obviously very successful businessman. He brought in the sponsor this year as well, Tenio, Alan Kelly's brother, Declan, over in the States. They've set up their own finance committee. Niall Quinn's on it, Alan Quinlan's on it, Louis Fitzgerald up in Dublin's on it. It's not just a hurling, he's trying to set up a legacy here, Valerie. I remember, like Conor saying that Tipper taking a few things out of Limerick's book. He mentioned earlier you were at the Tenio launch earlier this year, Valerie, where he was saying that, John Kiely was saying they almost needed 2 buses. Tip have 2 buses at the moment. Like they have really looked at Limerick. They really looked at them and really scrutinised them, and they are taking things from him. But Sheedy is just the man. I know him in a social sense as well. I know him through a charity golf event as well, and to say that he's never off is correct. Like he's always talking about hurling, always talking about it. It is his passion. He is such an organiser. You can just see how he gets people G'd up. I think Vincent Holcomb was writing about it in the Irish Independent today, how Bubbles O'Dwyer has turned into a different man. If you remember last year, he was a bit part player. Bubbles this year has been outstanding. You could say he's almost an all-star in a way.
As you mentioned, Bubbles there, the shape he's in this year, we saw from the first day out, he'd completely transformed himself.
That's it. Like we were, I'm sure Conor, as soon as Liam Sheedy was appointed, he hadn't mentioned his backroom team. There was rumours that Tommy was going to come in as the coach, but everybody was interested to see who he was going to bring in, and he's brought in, obviously Eamon was the last piece of the puzzle, so to speak, but they have a fantastic strength and condition coach in the former Antrim. I wouldn't even try and pronounce his name because he worked with obviously the Limerick Academy as well. I can't even pronounce it.
I think you have it, John. I think you have it.
Thank you, Conor. But in fairness, there's been a lot of positive vibes about him. Like it's quite. You look at John McGrath as well. John McGrath, I think people would have said before that he might have been carrying a little bit more than he should have. But John McGrath looks svelte at the moment. He looks like he's in top nick. But again, when it comes to strength and conditioning, I don't think anyone is better than Limerick at the moment. What Joe O'Connor's done with them guys is incredible. Like the kit they look even more menacing without a sponsor on their jersey this year. Put it that way.
We'll get a few questions in just a few moments' time, but what kind of battles are you expecting on the field tomorrow? Match-ups? Who are you most looking forward to see in action together? Kieran?
I actually didn't really give it any thought because I don't think the winner of the game is going to come down to match-ups. Right. If you're cute and clever, you'll avoid match-ups. I think match-ups will suit Tipperary tomorrow. We have to be very clinical, very clever in finding space, and if we find grass tomorrow, we'll hurt Tipperary. And but it's so important that defensively, that we're on it from the word go. Tipperary 6 forwards, Canlan, The last they got 1-4. I don't even think he looked at the goals once for the goal. He was about 30 yards out for nearly every one of his points. He didn't even look. And who was the corner forward? Ford got 3 points. Their other 4 forwards underperformed big time, but their work rate was high. And I just believe, we need to squeeze on these guys a bit closer, because there's none of them speedy Gonzalez. They're quick, but not very quick. They wouldn't have the same pace as Cork forwards, to be fair. We just need to dominate and to probably take charge back to it more often and be arrogant and come out and anticipate to get the ball up to go and get the machine going fairly earlier on. I believe if our attitude is right tomorrow, we'll probably see the best performance we've seen for Limerick up to date, if the attitude is right.
James, what about yourself?
There's going to be matchups all over the field, like Aaron Glenn, Carl Barrett, the midfielders, even if it is Norm McGrath and Keane Lynch, will the two of them play defensive, will they just go at it? You'd love to see both teams just go out and play with no sweep, which is quite possible too. Both teams might just do that. But back on the question about if Liam Sheedy obviously looked at Championship last year, and Tip were bad. There's no as bad as I ever saw Tip playing in a round of matches, and they still nearly qualified. And Liam Sheedy always had unbelievable time, and he always spoke well, even the time at 2010 when he won the Ireland, with the likes of Paddy Maher, Brendan Maher, Bonner Maher, all the Mahers basically. And but he always said they were young and they were going to win a couple of All-Irelands. So he obviously weighed up the situation. I was even talking to Conor there, they played in a Waterford Crystal game there back pre-Christmas against Limerick, and they were out of Championship early last year, and I was saying that Seamus Callan made a 50 or 60 yard run. I don't know, did he follow someone in the full back line went down and wandering run anyway, and he followed him the whole way, and he got a hook or a block in. Remember, he done in the league afterwards, and everyone was highlighting it. But when Seamus Callan had that mindset, I suppose he's nearly a leader of the team now, he's their marksman. When he had that mindset in December, you can imagine what the mindset of the whole squad was. And another small little thing about Tip just being that bit more tuned in this year. We were inside in the Gaelic grounds there during the week, and I was just picking up cool camp gear, starting work there Monday, and Jason Ford is inside in the middle of the Gaelic grounds taking a few frees, helmet and all on, and his ball boy was on Kelly hitting it out or whatever, but he was over by the 65, and you'll all see it tomorrow if you go into the game. There's great work being done in the Gaelic grounds, painting and all that, but he was at the 65 and the man was painting away the railing, and he was after pinging a serious point over from the sideline, and the painter just looked at him and goes, "It's easy doing, there's no one looking at you." But just when you see them small little things, you know it's a happy camp and you know things are going well and they're in a good place right now. And so are Limerick. Do you know, both teams, as Kieran said, they're both the best teams in Munster. I know now we lost 2 games, but they're both All-Ireland champions playing maybe the farm team of the year. I think it's got the potential to be a cracker, and both teams deserve to be there.
Why would you let Ford in? If you're the Limerick groundsman, why do you let Ford into the LIT Gaelic grounds? I think they're known as now, James.
The problem is, John, as long as he's not locked in.
Sure, I don't see anything wrong with it. Sure, if he wants to get familiar with the grounds and the whole lot, you'd like to think that if Aaron Glenn wanted to go over to Thurles and take a couple of frees, so it's not the old.
I can't see that happening.
So you saw Eamon Fitzmaurice giving revealing last week that Kerry were allowed into Walkie Cleave, and Ronan McCarthy was very upset about it. So, Jesus, it could be a 2-point victory now, Conor. Listen to that.
Yeah, but I suppose just on that point, even that was just maybe training sessions. He was only in taking a couple. You're not letting the old awkward midfielders like myself in who are going to plough up the ground before it starts and start hacking it down to slow down the players. I know, he was just taking a couple of. Look, I don't see anything wrong with it. I suppose by not letting them in wouldn't be a bigger story. You'd say that you're in fear or the whole lot. And that's the one thing I think about tomorrow with this new championship format and the whole lot. Tomorrow is even before the ball's thrown in, a very sports psychology battle in that, Limerick's mindset, I hope it's not we've the 4 boys back now, we're going to be so much better and just kind of waiting for things to happen. I know it's a fine, you'd be to say that both teams going to be ruthless, but Limerick could slightly be in that mindset where, we've our full team back now, we've all been there, a club or whatever, we've everyone back today, and next thing you're worse than you were the last day because you're in the wrong mindset. And the other thing is, from a Tipperary point of view, I'm sure Liam Sheedy's gone in kind of spinning it lads, Limerick put out half their team, we only beat them by 4 points 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's easy motivate. So it's going to be very interesting before the ball's thrown in what kind of a mindset both teams are going to be in. In
terms of psychology, you're absolutely right. Obviously, Caroline Curd is not with Limerick this year, and she was replaced by Tony O'Regan, who did work with Tipperary back 3 years ago. So in terms of that might be one that Limerick have over Tipperary in this regard. Obviously, Tony Og is sports psychologist. I don't know if there's patient or client confidentiality or anything like that, but again, it just looks Kiely had an edge on Cork in the sense that he got the Cork statistician in. He has now the Tipperary sports psychologist. It just shows you how sharp Kiely is.
Yeah, but the other side of that is Tony O'Gregan was there in 17 as well when we didn't manage to retain the All Ireland. So, but and that's you go back to actually to the physical trainer there that Tip have, and I said we won't try and pronounce his name, but I know at the start of the year. Liam kind of said he was going after the best strength and conditioning guy he could find, and he said, look, we won't be spending money on any kind of a psychologist, you know what I mean, in terms of that. Now they're probably getting someone in to give him a head, and he'd be a psychologist in his own right, but that they were going after this man over hell or high water, so. But I suppose back to what James was saying there, and maybe the head-to-heads tomorrow, and look at it could, what I mean, look at wouldn't you love to see Kyle Hayes and Paddy Maher just bloody taking a 20-yard run at each other tomorrow, and there could be an explosion in the middle of the Gaelic grounds. God only knows, you know what I mean? But I'd say the first 5 or 10 minutes is just what I said earlier, just the physicality around that place, and you could have you would Paddy on Joe Canning a couple of years ago with a big hit that sent out a message. You'd Garrod McInerney the following year putting Paddy back on his arse, coming out with a big ball, and you know what I mean. And they're small little things that are momentum. You know what I mean? That give a team momentum. So whoever can just shade that physical battle there around the middle tomorrow, and both full forward lines. That's where the winning of it is in. So it's getting the quality ball into that full forward line. And that's Tip, and that was it. That was Tip, and that was it.
I'll give the boys above here time to give their predictions in their head, but I'm going to come down now. Has anyone got a question? You can put your hand up. Am I coming anywhere this way? Anyone at all? Sure, leave your question for the panel. I have one here in front of me.
Yes, well, Munster final's a big occasion. As Kieran rightly says, it's the second biggest game of the hurling calendar. Now, obviously, there's a lot of hype, build-up and nerves come with that. Just a question, curious to know, for the ex-players on the panel, what do they do to just keep themselves composed? Did you have any pre-match rituals or anything like that to keep yourself focused if it's for such a big game?
Will I answer, will I? Yeah, every player does different things. I know some players walk up a mountain. Meant to be a very popular thing to do around Galties there. They go off with their girlfriend or walk a dog or something. And I just kind of turn into a recluse. I just go in and watch Love Island or something, or just anything bar hurling anyway.
This is why it's on tonight and after a
big ritual that an awful lot of players would have. Well, I definitely had as well, and I don't know, I'd never pick the hurley up day before a match. It's kind of, I found it mentally draining and stuff. And then there's other fellas that go for a puck about. They do a 20-minute puck about before every match, but the one thing I always found about playing is I don't think the mindset will ever go today. I don't think any of the lads now, they're all very experienced players, whatever. But what can often happen is if 2 or 3 fellas are switched off the morning of a game or whatever, maybe that's the advantage of having a home game at times, is when you meet up and there's 2 or 3 fellas and they're messing and joking and their mindset is off, it can often move on to other people's mindsets. I always made a point that when you be there with the boys saying, know your place in the bus. So if we were going to Thurles tomorrow, I'd say, know your place in the bus. So I was somebody that nearly loved to be above alongside the bus driver with just looking forward, thinking about my game. And there's other fellas in the back and they'd be telling jokes and listen to this one, Paddy Irishman, and they'd be all laughing at the back. But this is what goes on, because some fellas like to laugh and joke. That's the way of staying calm. There's other fellas that kind of like to be a bit in between, so they'd be in the middle of the bus. And the fellas who don't want to say anything in the front, and I think when you get older, and that's all about experience, about knowing your place in the bus, know what way you want to be in the dressing room. But look, that's not going to be an issue tomorrow. I don't think there's any debut player. Maybe a few of them are playing the first Munster Championship final, but there's no player that's going to be unbelievably nervous tomorrow. They're both very experienced players. Limerick have the All-Ireland behind them in their belt, and Tipperary are an experienced team. So I don't think that's going to be an issue tomorrow. But to answer your question, everybody does a different routine.
Yeah, I suppose, like James, I just try and stay in around home. Maybe I used called to the grandfather's grave inside in Tiptown. That's what I used to do, just go for a walk in there, and then in the evening time then just sit down and watch. I used to actually go out. I do maybe 5-minute puck, all right, myself, just against the wall, just to make sure that the touch was right if I ever got a touch. But or go out and pull the jersey, bring out the father, start pulling the jersey back like that. But
catch him first.
Catch him first, yeah. I knew I was fairly fucked when I said if I can't catch him. But and then I suppose the day of a match then. You know what I mean? You're on the bus, and as James said, everyone have their kind of their own little ritual of where they're going to sit on the bus, and you'd have a few lads down the back, and there used to be a few more of us up the front, and we'd be having the old crack. And it probably changed, I suppose, as things went on, where lads had, do you know what I mean? They'd be going around now with their big earphones, and there'd be no chatting on the bus, for a finish, and Jesus, once upon a time, we were all just, there was just a hum throughout the bus, and that's what I found just when I was finishing up there around 16, that all these guys, do you know what I mean, no talking out them all on the thing, but look, I suppose that was their own way of doing it and what they're used to. And James said everyone's different. I remember when we were going up to Dublin, you'd go into, I can't remember the hotel anyway, but you'd go in and have a bit of grub, and you'd have half an hour to spare, and Paul Curran used to go asleep, he'd literally lie down with a pillow and go asleep, and you'd be looking at him going, how the fuck's he going to sleep? We're fucking playing an Ireland final in 2.5 hours, and this fella's having a snooze, But every fella is different, So look at, and I suppose no matter what you do or but the minute you hit that field tomorrow, it's probably going to be 1:30, 25-2. And the roar that is going to go up, and look, we know Limerick are going to have a massive crowd, and that's going to hit. It's going to hit the place like a wave. So hopefully, Tip are going to have that energy as well in the crowd as well, and the hair is going to stand up on the back of your neck, and you're just trying to settle yourself, get that touch, catch your breath, and before you know it, you're in the middle of it, and it's going to be helter skelter.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michael, for that question. We've another one over this side.
Hello, Valerie. Do I not get an opportunity to answer that?
I want to talk about my snack box as well.
Yeah, a brilliant question, actually, to be fair. And I was sitting down listening to the lads because, if you're prepping for a match 7 or 8 days beforehand and leading up to it, if you're not meticulous in your own prep, if you're not mentally right, it's certainly going to interfere with your own performance on any given day. And I suppose I hadn't the pleasure of sports psychologists with the two guys on my right have had down through the years, so I had to negotiate it myself, and I suppose I learned fairly early, whether it was a challenge match with Patrick Swell, a league game with Patrick Swell, a championship match with Patrick Swell, a league game with Limerick, championship game with Limerick, or Munster final with Limerick. I bought the same head all the time, so I got into a routine fairly early, and it suited me, and I maintained that through my whole career. And if a few shots had to be fired in the dressing room, then if things weren't right, that had to be done also. So I believe the coolest man will always come out on top of it, but it's so important not to allow your emotions hijack you on any given day, because if they do, it's going to prevent you from maximising your potential on any given day.
Yeah, just a question there on the Limerick full forward line, that Seamus Flanagan is out tomorrow, and that the work rate he brings to that full forward line. Is there an over-reliance on Galan particularly? Because if you notice in the games today so far, a lot of the ball that goes into the full forward line is directed at Galan.
Let the club man talk.
Yeah, okay, but I think Seamus Flanagan, I think he fractured his finger the last time he came on, the very first one he caught, and hence why he dropped it on 2 occasions. Yeah, okay, if Aaron Galan is getting most of the ball, I wouldn't see a whole pile wrong with that, because he's the most dangerous corner forward in the country presently, and alongside him is Graham Mulcahy, and he's firing from all cylinders. He's like a good wine. 'Tis better with age he's getting. In the last 2 or 3 years he's been outstanding. Prior to that he was kind of mediocre. How long more will he be there? So he's after regenerating altogether, and he's hurling outstanding. Casey's a guy for me that actually needs to kind of probably come up a few notches tomorrow. Hasn't been as consistent as he was last year, and I was saying it to James Ryan earlier on. I think possibly it could have been tailor-made tomorrow for Pat Ryan. He came on the last there for about 15 minutes. He took the corner back on 3 occasions. Like taking candy off a child, he got inside him on 3 occasions. So, it'll be interesting because he's going well, and I couldn't see Limerick delaying any of the forwards tomorrow if they're underperforming. But the bottom line is, if you're going to raise green flags in any game, usually you're going to get into 13, 14, 15 as quick as you can. And the reason Aaron Gallan is getting it because he's razor sharp and he's the best of the three inside there presently at the moment. It's the way I see it.
He came very close to an All-Star last year as well.
I'd actually go one further. I'd say of all the goals that he missed, which he missed a lot of them, kicking them, if he converted half of them, he probably would be up nearly 100 years on top of that.
It was mentioned in the meetings. I'm not speaking out of turn there. He came very close. The only problem was...
Were you part of the committee?
Might have been.
We'll say no more about it.
Explain that in Patrick's way.
The only problem... I'll be honest though, Kieran, it was mentioned, the amount of times he lost to Hurley was incredible. And it was mentioned in it, but we saw in the league final this year, despite the wides, he was exceptional. He is, you're absolutely right, he's as biased as you are. He is...
No. Everything that I'm saying now, I'm speaking with accuracy and facts back it up.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think the question has nearly been answered already by Conor saying display ball. Like, it's very easy to give out about full forward line or whatever, but like even Shane McCallan going out as a fourth half forward, that's all to stop the supply going in. And then when it does go in, then you've two sweepers effectively back there with Noel McGrath playing so deep. So look, if they can get on top, obviously in the half back line, more balls going to go in. Look, the Seamus Flanagan debate, should he be in there or not? A big man inside full forward, and McCallan goes in there big, but they give a different sense. I actually think Limerick, even with, I know we're very small inside there, but watch them in the league in a couple of championship matches. Sometimes I just wish if they did give the odd ball or two into the D nice and quick and just see how to deal with it. And the one thing I would say about Peter Casey, even though he's small in stature, he is quite good in the air. That it doesn't have to be a small, no, it has to be maybe a diagonal ball, but it doesn't have to be a ball in front of me. He can win in the air. But look, if any of the three of them get the ball into their hand, it usually ends up being a point. The one thing I would say about Limerick in comparison to Tipperary, and I've been watching Limerick in all championship games we all have this year, is I'm not saying they're not capable of getting goals. I just this is just me wanting them to improve all the time, because a couple of years ago we were saying we don't have enough scoring forwards. Now we're giving out, they're all putting the ball over the bar, that maybe they should be going for the goal a bit more. I thought in a couple of championship games we played this year, the whole thing opened up. A couple of Limerick players, right, all six of them that were playing on particular days, the thing had opened up. Like even Aaron Gallan, for example, he's a great man to win the ball inside his man, but sometimes he's happy to come back around and put it over the bar. No, he always has the shot off, it's always a point. I'm not saying it's a negative thing, it's just Tipperary tomorrow, if Callan, Bubbles or one of them gets a chance, they've goal in their head. And I just think Limerick need to maybe get that, because the goal chances are there, but they're not going for it. Because more often than not, if you see Callan or Bubbles or even an Aaron Glenn or Graham going for the goal chance, more often than not, a player comes back and the whole thing opens up just to pop back and it's a point anyway, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't give out about the full forward line, it's just the supply going in. But the one criticism I have for six forwards, and maybe Grod Hegarty's nearly the best at it at the moment from half forward, is and Pat Ryan, when he comes on, we were talking about a while ago, have goal in their head a bit more, because the point will always be an option more often than not.
Yeah, and James, to be fair, I think you're the first fella I've heard to say that, and it's one area of their game, even all last year and now, and I maintain with the power, pace, skill they have, and imagination, they possibly should be hanging 3 to 4 goals every game. And the opportunity does present itself, but you see, it's kind of half programmed. When you're going down that road, you're half programmed, and you seem to miss the opportunity then because it's a point. But and there goes the question. Then you must think on your feet and not time. I know tactics are right, like this is the gospel in cards and tactics. Like you still have to kind of use your own noggin on any given day. And I think if Limerick hurled off the cuff more often and kind of took more authority, they should be hanging 3 or 4 goals every game.
Sorry, James. That is the thing. Tip are more explosive, aren't they? Yeah, they do have more goal scorers like that. But Mulcahy, he knows where the net is against Tipperary anyway. That's one thing about it.
We'd love to talk all night, but we're going to get some predictions now before we try to give away these Munster hurling final tickets. The last pair, I'd say, in Limerick, because Tipperary handed back most of theirs. Right, we'll start with. Sorry, Conor. Kieran, prediction for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm not going to go into any ramation. I believe if Limerick's attitude is right tomorrow and they bring the Ray game, Limerick 7 or 8 points.
Okay, well. Conor.
That's a 9-point swing, anyway, isn't it? No, look, I think there's a small if with Limerick if they come with the energy and with the thing. Now, it's Munster final in Limerick. You'd imagine that they're going to, but I just think Tip have been a little bit more consistent. We've only conceded 1 goal in the championship, and we are capable of scoring goals. I think, as the lads alluded to, they're a little bit more than what Limerick are, and I think that's what'll get us over the line.
Sure, going for Tip.
I'm going for Tip.
Right. James.
They're not
they
make-
give
they're
them
not
all.
make that
Woo! We got him from Tip here. Yeah.
Look,
Come on, Kevin and Tim. Come on, boys, Jesus.
You're rightly outnumbered tonight, James.
look, again, it's a mindset thing. If Limerick come with the right mindset, I think this having the league, All Ireland and Munster, a lot of them don't have it. If you take out 4 or 5 of the lads, a lot of them don't have a Munster medal. Any player who ever plays or anyone who's any interest in hurling would love to have a Munster final medal. They will be going all out to win it. I just think actually tomorrow's game, because both teams play the same way, or there's so many good players in the pitch, it's going to come down to ruthlessness, like which team is going to tackle harder, which team is going to do all that. But I think Limerick will share it. I think it's going to go down the wire, but I think Limerick will share it.
Right, 2-1 for Limerick so far. John Fogarty, it's down to you.
Be very careful now, John.
Clearly you didn't buy the paper today anyway, Conor.
Here's the number of your car, Jan.
Everyone's.
Just going back to the pre-match question. Like, we went down, as you know, Valerie, for questions afterwards, and John Kiely, it was hard to listen to him because of the booming music coming out of the Limerick dressing room. This is the new thing now. Like, I remember Wexford beat Kilkenny in the league this year, and Brian Cody, you could see he was getting irritated because he could hardly hear the questions because the music, it was almost as if you had to pay admission into the Wexford dressing room. It was like a nightclub.
Yeah.
It was mad.
And
Like, Limerick didn't look to me, as much as they wanted to win the last day, they didn't look to me too upset by the whole thing. Obviously, they were still playing their tunes, the likes of Storms, the likes of stuff that Spin play.
good songs, John.
Good songs, yeah. Not my songs, Valerie, but good songs, yeah. But no, in all honesty, if Tipperary win tomorrow, I think we're talking. I think the excitement around this game, Valerie, is huge because we could be looking at an All-Ireland final here again. At the same time, I think a defeat tomorrow for Limerick is fatal. If Tipperary win, they will be cock a hoop. Sheedy has a great way of keeping them on the ground. What amazes me is the support for Limerick, in that this is a team that have lost twice. Obviously, they won the league, in a canter, and yet they're the favourites. So there's either some very silly people with money in Limerick putting money on their team, or they have faith in this group. Tomorrow, I would have faith in Limerick to win by 2 or 3 points for the reason only, as I said before, I think they are a little bit more desperate. I think the fear of losing is stronger than the hope of winning, and for that reason, I'm sorry, Conor. I do think Limerick are going to win on this occasion.
It's 3-1 to Limerick. We look forward to an absolute battle tomorrow in the LIT Gaelic grounds. I want to give it a big, massive, warm, thanks very much to our panel up here tonight. Give them a round of applause.